Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Spring I Am Norm Round Robin. It's time for round number 5. I've got, how many points do I have? 2.5 out of 4. 2 wins, 1 loss, and a draw. Friendly reminder, I always forget to mention these things in the intro. I wait until the last 30 seconds. But the courses are on sale anytime I play a tournament. Link in the description. 33% off. You know what to do. Now, going into this game, what I knew about my opponent was that, he hasn't really played tournaments in a very long time. He was working, I think, in finance or he just had a corporate job doing things that are much more, I don't know about interesting, but at least lucrative generally. Yeah, I mean, he played a really good game in the morning. He was actually crushing the grandmaster of the section, David Berches. And I knew that he was going to play d4, knight f3, or he would play d4, c4. And what I decided before the game was that if he played knight f3, I was going to play the Queen's Gambit accepted, and I had prepared something in this variation. But I looked at his database, and when he plays this way, he doesn't play knight f3. He actually plays e3. And this is annoying because it kills certain move orders. And if you remember my Norm tournament, I think back in November, I played Denis Shmelov, and I lost a really, really brutal game. E3 is a very solid line. I mean, of course, I can still play knight f6, e6, a6, which is the classical main line. But I chose before the game to do something far more provocative. I mean, I really wanted to win this game, and I thought it was a good moment to kind of create a mess. So what I did is I play e5. This is a very principled move. White can't really do this because black just develops quickly here. So usually they take. And then here, the main line is takes, takes, and, you play the isolated pawn position. But I decided before the game, actually, I decided sort of at the board. I mean, I had a feeling this might happen, and I decided that I was going to play knight c6. Because the thing is, if you want to play something provocative, you can play something provocative on move 1. I can play my Dutch defense. I can play the g6, modern course. Because I don't think he was going to play e4 if I played g6. But I decided to be provocative in the Queen's Gambit accepted with the move knight c6. The reason why this move is provocative, because generally here, white can first of all immediately attack your knight, and you would go here attacking the bishop. Just so you're aware, this does not lose a piece, because even though it's a fork, this move defends the knight and the king. But there's also just the move knight f3, and again, my only other option besides taking, which we just discussed, is to push my pawn forward. And I knew of this line. I've never played this line over the board. I've played it in Blitz maybe 15, 20 times. The idea is very simple. You try to kick the knight away, then you try to go here and attack this pawn. And the main line, as far as I'm aware here, is knight d2, queen g5, and white should accept the challenge, basically saying, look, this is dumb. I'm going to put my knight on g3, and you have nothing. I mean, this is just a stupid position, but it's complicated. Yes, Stockfish claims white has 0.6, 0.7 advantage, but it's imbalanced. I mean, like, very complicated position. White has a very weak king side, but very good center space. I would try to quickly develop my bishop, maybe even h5, h4 later on, get my queen back into the game. So, but he thought for a bit, and he played g3. So g3 is far more sturdy, but I don't think it's the most aggressive of options, considering there's also moves like queen b3 here, which lead to some devastating attack on the black position. But this, yeah, I mean, queen b3 here, queen g2 is just very good. I think you can even play queen b3 in this position. And if I take, then I just get blasted. So, yeah, so knight d2, and I played knight f6, just simply defending my pawn. I honestly didn't know any more theory here. I think I thought about playing f5, just defending with the pawn, but I didn't like this move for 2 reasons. Number 1, I can no longer castle. So even if I successfully am able to develop my knight, castling is going to be a nightmare. And also I'm blocking my bishop. And I figured that after knight f6, I am still able to castle and my bishop is still out, even though, of course, defending a center pawn with another pawn is generally what you would want to do. In this case, I thought I would have sufficient defenses of my pawn here. So he played knight c3, and I thought about either bishop f5 or queen g6 to defend my pawn, and another move which I ended up playing, which here I didn't like bishop f5 because I don't think this is where I want my bishop in the long run. So I actually think that my queen on g6 defending both pawns with a more flexible bishop is what I prefer in this position. But again, it's very complicated to decide, like, you know, do you play bishop f5 or do you play queen g6? And here I even thought, why am I moving these two pieces? Let me make it impossible for him to take my pawn. So I'm going to play bishop b4, and I'm basically going to trade my bishop for one of these knights when time comes, and I'm pinning to the king, so he can't take my pawn. Right? And if he were to play a3 here, well, then I would just take the knight. I mean, that's exactly why I went there, and then I would go here, he can't castle, and I would castle short. And, you know, I gave him the bishop pair, but look at his pawns. Have you ever seen something like this? 7 pawns on dark squares? Literally every pawn he has is on a dark square. Means his dark square bishop's not that good. Admittedly, he will probably play a4, bishop a3. But, so he played queen c2, and I understood the idea. The idea was obviously to not just attack my pawn, which now needs protection. The idea was also that when he takes, he's not going to have a pawn here blocking his position. He's going to take with the queen, and he's going to hope for long-term pressure on my c file. So that's what he did. He played a3, takes. And here I thought for a while. Because I have 3 options. The first option is just castle. Just don't even think. Short castle, move on with life. The second option is h5. So very provocative. And I ended up playing the move h5. The third option, which is very sophisticated, is rerouting this knight to e7 before I castle. And the logic is this is very well protected. And if he tries to advance on the queen side, I'll play like c6, bishop b2, and knight d5, and go for a setup like this. And I thought this looked very smart. So rerouting my worst piece, because if you look around, this is my worst piece. It will never move forward. So it's just sort of standing there. But if I reroute, then he can't even attack me on this side of the board anymore, right? I mean, the queen was put on c3 to pressure my queen side, so I thought about this as well. I thought that this looked like an interesting choice. Yeah, I mean, very, very tough to decide. And again, this is why I spent time, because they all look good, and they all are good, and I basically have to make a choice. Kind of like ordering your favorite food, right? I mean, it's not always so easy. So, h5. And here I calculated what would happen if you went here. So, you know, the most principled way to strike against something on the side is in the middle. And I was looking at d5, knight back to e7, attacking this pawn, queen to e5, pinning my knight and pressuring this. And then here I was even thinking just to trade queens. And the pawn is just dead. Like it's just a sitting duck now. And then, you know, if he goes down here, I can of course take this, and I'm doing very well. But there's also, you know, bishop b5 check. And I was calculating all sorts of stuff here. First of all, I was even calculating moving my king, defending my pawn, because this pawn's going to die. But then there's a pawn sack. He can go queen b4. I'll play like king c7, knight c4, knight d5. I mean, it's an insane position where I'm defending myself, and my king is wide open, but I'm winning because his bishop gets trapped. So check here. Like, his bishop and knight are just really poorly positioned. So, yeah, pretty wild. So I thought about this. Then I also thought about blocking with the knight and the bishop. I also thought about gambiting a pawn. I mean, I looked at so many different lines here that could have happened if he had played d5. That's why I spent a lot of time, because I thought h5, the most principled way, was to strike in the middle with d5. I spent, I mean, maybe 10, 15 minutes just calculating all these insane complexities. I can even leave my king in the middle again, like this way. So it's difficult to showcase in the recap. Maybe when soon I will probably change my overlay to not be on this chess.com window, but be on the analysis window. And there, maybe the game changes, like the board will change color when I do analysis. That way it'll be easier for you to follow. Because I know right now I'm trying to verbally introduce like everything that was going through my mind. But what actually happened was that he played h4, right? So I guess you can listen to me say he actually played a move. He played h4 because he basically just doesn't want me to, you know, to chop down his king side. But I was very happy with this because I thought now, you know, I induced him to, I mean, like, he'll never castle queenside. I thought that if he could have it, you know, his way, he would go here, you know, long castle and be in good shape. Even in the long run, I mean, imagine a situation where white opens up the queen and the bishop. I mean, I'm going to be in trouble. So I castled, and then here he spent a while. I mean, he spent like over 20 minutes. And the truth is, white's position is kind of bad. A lot of weaknesses. You know, if he goes short castle, I'm going to go here. then I might even move my queen and maybe even play g5. Like I might just Wreck-It Ralph, or, you know, knight g4, reroute this knight like I've been talking about. So he thought for a while, he played a good move, a move I was kind of expecting, and that's the move bishop back to f1. The point is that now the bishop is going back because it has no real purpose here anymore. It's going to cover the light squares, and then the king is going to castle. Meanwhile, the queen is going to apply pressure here, and the knight is going to get into the game. And I really underestimated his position here. Like, I thought his position was dead. I thought I'm just going to steamroll. But it's not easy at all. So, I mean, I thought about, again, knight e7 to d5, or just knight d5 right away. There are ways to lose the game immediately. For example, if he moves his queen attacking my pawn, I take the pawn here and he loses. So there are ways to lose on the spot. The point is that this, and then, you know, bishop g4, and everything is dead. I mean, everything. Even, you know, queen e3, knight d4, bishop g4. Position is completely lost. So there are ways to lose. So he has to go here and defend his pawns, but they're surprisingly solid. And knights are kind of awkward. They're sort of like the, you know, the drunk friends at Coachella. You know, Coachella is going on right now. It's an outdoor music festival in United States. Anybody abroad has no clue what Coachella is. You know, you're just stumbling around. You know, it's really difficult to get them into all the right squares. So I played bishop e6, obviously setting up nasty stuff here, and I'm giving him b7. It seems way too dangerous to take this. I even thought here about playing, like, you know, rook b8. Oh, sorry, that hangs the knight. First this, sacrificing, making the queen move, and then same idea, just basically bulldozing the pawn structure down, 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 like knight f3. I mean, take, the rook gets in, the queen gets in, the knight gets in, everything is really bad. So I thought about that. He didn't do that. He played knight c4, and I'm sitting there like, why is this position not just in total disarray? Like, I really want to play a6, b5. I can't play a6 because he takes my pawn now. It's a slight difference. So I play rook b8 with the idea to go b5. And, you know, he lets me get everything I want and just plops his knight into the middle of the board. And, you know, in this position, I thought he couldn't go back, by the way, because I have knight e3 anyway. But he can do this. And again, this is insane. It's almost move 20, and 5 of his 6 pieces are on their home squares. How is this position okay? Look at my position compared to his. How is this possible? But I mean, so far so good. You know, I'm playing a decent game. So rook e8, and he goes bishop g2. And at this point, you know, we both have about 30 minutes on the clock, but he starts playing very fast. And he starts playing very fast because, well, his moves have to be played. Right, his moves have to be played. He has to, like, get this. But here's the other thing. I have a very tough task because there is probably one and only one way forward for me to, like, get the advantage here. And basically, I had to foresee 5 to 10 moves into the future. How am I actually going to attack his king? Because here's the thing. If I try to get this pawn with my rook, which absolutely is my intention, even if I get it, which I thought he had no way of defending it, like, even if I get it and have to, like, move my rook, like, look at this position. You know, is this really that much better for me? Look at this bishop. This bishop is just randomly a phoenix rising from the ashes. I mean, it's going to be on the board forever. And I was sitting like, I thought I was doing everything right. Why is the game not over? You know, like, I mean, you know, I'm getting a bit frustrated. So I play bishop f5. He doesn't play b4, which, you know, again, because he was playing very fast. So the momentum of the game was changing in a way that when you try to overtake the opponent on time, to put pressure on them, sometimes you miss your own best resources. So he played queen c5, and his intention here was just to win my pawn. Computer actually wants me to be patient, not even take this and just block his queen. I thought that was ridiculous. I thought my justification for allowing this was his queen is so offside. Like, the queen should not be there. You know what I mean? And here I spent a lot of time again because I didn't know where to put my rook. I even thought about rook b6. And the idea of rook b6 is that in the long run, you know, maybe my rook will be useful here. But will it? Or will my king be a liability without any rook protection? And will my rooks just get butchered by this bishop? So I thought for a bit, and I decided to just reinforce my rook. Now, if you ever want to launch a successful attack in chess, what you need is a completely blockaded center. So by completely overprotecting the e4 pawn, I basically cut the board in half. My side, where I'm going to operate right here, even smaller, actually, I mean, it's more like this, and his side, right, which again, this entire time I was thinking it was going to be b4, bishop b2. So yeah, I mean, even though we're playing natural looking moves, knight b6 apparently to prevent his counterplay was even better. And then here, I had to spend time because I'm like, what is my way forward? My original intention was bishop g4, bishop f3, but that doesn't work at all because he'll just go here. He just won't trade with me. It's going to be like an annoying toddler running around the room. You know, he's like, and I mean, I'm like, okay, well, if I can't do that, then what am I doing? So I'm like, okay, well, what if I do this? I'm going to move my queen behind my bishop, okay? And I'm going to go bishop h3. Now, no, but then b4, bishop b2 looks really unpleasant. But I have a trick. Here, takes, he has to take. He can't take my rook because otherwise I get in, right? His light squares are extremely weak. But he played bishop to d2 after I played queen e6. But I realized here I have another idea. I discovered in all of my kind of pressure on the clock and everything, I discovered that every good position that's just on the verge of attack has the final domino. Well, not the final domino, I should say. It's like the first domino. But okay, but analogy still stands. There's like a tipping point where he can no longer defend himself. Like the position becomes completely untenable. I'm about to have 4 pieces go this way, but in order to begin wrecking everything, and this is actually why I had to move my queen, not just to defend my bishop, in this position I have the idea g5. And this will be the beginning of the end because I can sack my next pawn too. And he might not have to take, but soon he will. And you know, then I get in, and now the king is bare, and we're just gonna win the game. Of course, this position actually is extremely resilient, and what I mean by that is, I played bishop h3 first, before I played g5. g5 first was actually better. I rejected it because I thought this was met with f4, and let me tell you, with like 15 minutes on the clock, calculating the complexities here is just, and I don't want to get on low time, what happened in round 4. So, rook c1, and now I play g5. But it's still not winning. I mean, it's like minus 1.2. It's a good position, but it's still not winning. The white position is so resilient. And he plays bishop c3. The reason this approach is wrong, and I think way back when b4 was better, is because the bishop can't get taken here. And, you know, I have some problems here. I can't ever play c5. The way he did it in the game is he left me an option to just take this bishop anytime I wanted. In some ways, I don't want to because my knight is very strong. But in other ways, that bishop is really good. And, you know, if we get a position like this, all of a sudden, I'm getting mated. Okay, I was the aggressor this game. I was not supposed to be on the verge of a checkmate. And then, you know, by then if I take, well, I mean, look at this. Can you really say white is even worse? I'm trying my best to attack him, but he can completely turn it around on me, I thought. So, finally, it kind of comes time to make a decision. I have the option to move my rook, sack my rook, which obviously I don't want to do, or take his bishop. And I have maybe 15 minutes versus 30 because, again, he's just been playing very fast and I don't want to get into time trouble. And I realize here that I should just be able to win this game if I play knight takes c3, rook takes c3, and just give him this pawn. Okay, just give it to him. He's going to take it with the queen or the rook. Like, for example, obviously he won't take because he cannot open his king. He just loses. It's mate. Literally, it's mate like this. So the one thing covering his position when I take on h4 is this pawn. And in sort of counterintuitive fashion, I don't want to take this. Because he survives, and now I open his rook. So I don't need his rook also joining the party, because just to show you, then I lose. Okay, now suddenly he has all his pieces on the side. How did this happen, right? Like, chess sometimes hangs on the thinnest of knife edges. You take so many little things for granted sometimes in these recaps. So, you know, I knew he was going to take on c7 with something. I actually thought queen takes was better than rook takes. He took with the rook. And then my idea was, before I took, it was to get my queen to f3. So he was going to take. I was going to go queen f5 or queen f6 and get my queen. And the difference here is that when I get my queen here, now I can take. So I can take, the rook is hanging, or I can take, and even though his rook gets into the game, I go first. So it's check. So this very important thing, I think he missed this kind of final nail in the coffin, which is, before I take on g3, I get my queen to f3 and nobody can stop me, which was very important, very, very important. But you know, when he took on c7, I realized there's a major difference between where I move my queen. and I decided to go to f5 because it stops rook c5. I actually freaked myself out. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna trade rooks with me. And then if I trade rooks, I'm not even better here anymore because he gets his queen to g5. I'm like, oh my god, what is going? And you know what Stockfish said after the game? Stockfish said that in this position, his best move was not to take my pawn at all, but to play rook c5, which you just never look at that move ever ahead of time. I mean, that was like the last thing that occurred to me. I mean, of course you take the pawn, right? Because black just took a pawn and is about to attack you. So in hindsight, it's like, it looks very natural to just look at this move and go, oh, I should have thought about it. But I just thought, you know, my attack goes on. Queen f3, etc. But no, I need both rooks. I need both rooks, and you'll see why I need both rooks. So yeah, I mean, kind of nuts. Yeah, the best move was actually to play queen f5 first. Because again, if he goes here, this is just winning. The attack just marches through, and he's too slow. If takes, I go here, and then I can like bring in my rook. I'm just too fast. But yeah, wow. I mean, queen f5 preventing rook c5 first, incredible. I didn't even occur to me. But I thought I was very smart here. Here he played f4. Here I did something completely unforgivable. I didn't play en passant. I saw that I could play it, and I calculated this h3, deflecting his king from his rook. And then I thought I could go here. But I really didn't like the prospect of 3 pieces on the 7th rank, and apparently it's just winning. I'll actually tell you what I miscalculated. I forgot that in this position I can play rook e3. So I just was like, oh, I can't promote and I can't check him. Oh my god, I just forgot that I can play rook e3. You know, stupid stuff. I would have probably brought myself to play this move if I didn't like the alternative so much. The alternative is ignoring this completely. This move completely weakens g3. So now I not only threaten an infiltration here, I also threaten one here. So he's weakened his king now on 2 sides. So I really liked rook d5 and I played it. Probably if rook d5 didn't work, I would have had to play en passant. Yeah, unforgivable not to play it, but he goes back to a5, and this is why I need both rooks right here. Because I attack his pawn and force him back, and the only way I win this game is if my rook can make it down here, which is why my rook needs help. If we were in a position where there were no rooks, I don't know why we would be there, but let's just say something like this. I mean, this is a completely ridiculous example, but let's just say I'm just making, you know, random moves. Maybe I'm still winning here, but it's going to take a lot more work. So I need help. My rook needs help, and they, you know, get some help, and then finishing this game off was really funny. I played rook d1, and here I just thought the game was over. Because if takes, I take, and then I win this. And I'm threatening the queen with discovered check. But then he went here. I was like, oh my god, that's so annoying. So I went here. Thought I was very clever. If he takes, this is mate. If he takes, then check here, mate. But then he played this move. I was like, oh my god, his position is so resilient. This is so annoying. So I check, and I go back, creating the threat of rook d1 again. And h4, h3, h2. He goes here. So we can trade queens, and this is just a winning rook endgame. But I also had a very savage move, queen f3, with the intention to play this, and he's just dead on the 1st rank. But he plays rook d2, and I'm like, dude, what the? This is so annoying. So I play rook c8. He can't play rook c2 because take, and then I win both his pawns, and it's just a completely winning endgame. I thought he was going to go here, and then my plan here was just very mean, just march the pawn all the way down. But he played rook c2, I took, and he resigned. Yeah, I mean, pretty satisfying win, I would say. I played pretty decently, but chess is so hard. Honestly, I went back and analyzed the game with Stockfish, and a lot of the things that I thought during this game were accurate, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, the position that White had was so resilient, even though it was so odd and looked so bad. But that's just how it goes sometimes. So, hope to keep it up in round 6 and 7. Appreciate you as always if you made it 24.5 minutes into this video. Much love. I'll see you for the next few rounds. Get out of here.